Okay, so here we are in review section 3. We're going to go through questions 18 through 26. So starting at number 18, we have to write the equation aligned with the given characteristics. So they give us a slope of m equals 5/6, and then they give us a point of 1, 3. So we have an x, we have a y, and we have an m. So the equation that I would go to is y equals mx plus b, or the formula I'd go to. And then we're going to fill in everything that we know, right? So we know y, which is 3. We know m, which is 5/6. And then we know x, which is 1. But we don't know b, so we're going to solve this to find b. So we have 3 equals, and then 5/6 times 1 is just going to be 5/6 plus b. So I don't like working with fractions, so I'm just going to get rid of the 6 right away and just multiply everything by 6. Because when we multiply it by that, it's going to be 6 divided by 6 for the fraction, and it'll just get rid of it. So 3 times 6 is going to be 18, and then of course the fraction just leaves 5, and then 6 times b is going to be 6b. Then we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. We have 13 equals 6b. And then I'm just going to divide 6 on both sides. Okay, so now our b equals 13/6. So our equation of this line is going to be y equals, and then the m, which is 5/6, x, and then plus 13/6. And that is the equation for 18, and that's how you find it. Coming over to 19. We're doing about the same, so we still have an x, a y, and an m. We're going to be using the formula of y equals mx plus b to find it. So we have a y, which is 8, and then -5 is the m times 2 plus b. So -5 times 2 is -10. And then if we add 10 on both sides, it's going to give us 18 equals b. So I'll just get rid of it. So then our equation line is just going to be y equals -5x plus 18. And that is the equation for this one. So whenever we're creating the equation of line, we leave y and x the same, but then we add in what we know of m and what we know of b to get the equation. Okay, coming over to 20. So we have m equals 0 and goes through to -4. So I'm going to use a different color for this one. But when we do 20, let's see. So we're going to fill in what we know, right? So we have x and we have y. So our y is -4 equals the m is 0 times 2, and then plus b. Of course, 0 times 2 is just going to be 0. So we're just going to get rid of that part. And so you're left with -4 equals b. So then when we write the equation of the line, we're going to go y equals, and then the m is 0, but 0 times any x is still going to be 0. So we're just not going to add that because it's just always going to be 0. So we're going to just leave it as y equals, and then whatever the b is, which in this case is -4. And that's the only equation that you need for 20. Coming over to 21. So we're looking for the slope that is parallel to that slope there, which is -2, and then goes through -4, 2. So remember that with parallel lines, the slope has to be the same. So in this case, the m is still going to be -2 because it needs to be the same as the other equation to be parallel. So then we're just going to fill in what we know. So we know that y is 2. The m is -2 because of parallel lines. And then it's multiplied by a -4, which is our x. We're going to just add on b. So -2 times -4 is going to be 8 equals 2 plus b. And then we're going to subtract 8 on both sides. We're going to get -6 equals b. Okay, so then when we are writing out this equation, we're just going to go y equals -2x minus 6. There we go. And then that's the equational line there. So yep, just remember that we just need the b and the m to find the equation of a line. Going on to number 22, I'm going to use a different color again for these two. But going on to 22, we're trying to find perpendicular to y equals 3 over 2x minus 11 and goes through 7 and 8. So we have an x and a y. And then remember that the slope perpendicular is going to be the opposite. So if we have 3 over 2 as our slope, the perpendicular slope is going to be opposite signs. So going from positive to negative, and then it's going to be flipped. So the fraction is going to be flipped. It's going to reciprocate and go 2 over 3. So the m for this one is going to be negative 2 over 3. So that's the perpendicular slope. So then when we do this one out, 8 is the y equals negative 2 over 3. And then we're going to multiply the x, which is 7, plus b. So let's get b by itself. So multiply the fractions first. So we have negative 2 times 7, which is going to be negative 14. And then 3 times 1 is still 3, plus b equals 8. Okay, and then remember that, oh, so I don't really like the fractions again. So I'm going to get rid of them by multiplying by a 3 on both sides. So when we do that, 8 times 3 is going to be 24. And then 3 divided by 3 really is going to get rid of them, and you'll be left with negative 14 plus, and then 3 times b is going to be 3b. And then we're just going to add 14 on both sides. And we're going to get 38 equals 3b. And then we're going to divide 3 on both sides. And then that doesn't simplify down, so our b is just going to be 38 over 3. And then when we're writing out this equation, remember that we have to do y equals the m, which is negative 2 over 3x, plus 38 over 3. So we're adding on that b again. Okay. Going over to number 23, a vertical line going through 4, 2. So remember that a vertical line is just an undefined slope. It's usually found when you have an x equals equation. So in this case, when we're writing the equation of the line, we're just going to go with x equals. And since they give you a point here, we're just going to go with the x value, which is going to be 4, because that's all. So when we draw this out, it's only ever going to go through the 4s on the x's. So it'll always be 4 for the x, but something different for the y. Make it so. So we have x equals 4 for our equation there. Okay, and then coming over to the last two, let me go ahead and, or the last 3, let me go ahead and change the color again. So now we're dealing with 2 pairs of points, and we have to make it into an equation of the line. So starting with this first one, we're finding the slope of these 2 points. So to do that, we have to remember y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is the equation that is going to help you find the slope between 2 points. So if we do this, I'm going to label it x1, y1. This just makes it easier for me to see what I'm dealing with. Then we're just going to plug in values. So we have 8 for x2 minus 7. Then we have 3 minus 0 for the bottom. So what we're left with is 1 over 3 for our slope. So there's the slope there. The good news about this one is that they give us 0, 7. So the good thing about 0, 7 is that when on a graph, when you have x as the 0, your y has to be on the y-axis somewhere here. So what that is where this line crosses the y-axis, which means it's the y-intercept. So the y-intercept for this one is just going to be 7. So b is going to equal 7. So then we're just going to plug it back into an equation, and we're going to make it y equals 1/3 x plus 7. All right, and then coming over to this 25, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do x1, y1, and then x2, y2. In this case, they didn't give us any 0 and then a number, so we have to figure it out by ourselves. So we have y2, which is 3, minus 3. Oh, okay, there we go. And then -6 minus 8. So we have -14 on the bottom and 0 on the top. So because it's 0 divided by a number, we're just going to go with 0 as our answer, because anything with 0 divided by a number, it's just going to come out to 0. So our slope is 0. Now, if we remember, that means that it's all y values are going to be 3 in this case, because it's all at 3 there. So we could plug in 0 to the y equals mx plus b and then plug in 3 and 8, but it will still give you 3 as the y-intercept because that's where it's going through. So then when we go ahead and write out that equation, we have y equals, then remember that the m is 0, so 0 times any x is going to be 0. So we're going to write that in, and then it will be just y equals 3. Okay, and then going on to the last one here, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the work up here. All right, and we'll go on to this last one. So it says, write the equational line that represents the target heart rate, y, when compared to age x, given the points 12, 156, and 48, 129. Then use that line to predict the target rate for someone age 72. Okay, so pretty much this is a fancy way of saying find the equation between these 2 points, and then we're going to plug in 72 as x to find out what our y is. So I'm going to go ahead and label these. So we have x1 and y1, and then we have x2 and y2. And remember that we're going to be using that same equation of the line, for finding the slope, where it's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So when we do that, we're going to have 129 minus 156, and then we have 48 minus 12. Okay, so then when we do that out on the top, we're going to get a -27. And then on the bottom, we're going to get 36. Okay, so these ones can be simplified. If we divide both of them by 3, we're going to get -9 on the top. And then on the bottom, we're going to get 12. And then from here, we can still go down a little bit farther. So I'm going to divide it by 3 again, divide by 3 again. We're going to get -3 over 4. So our slope is going to be -3 over 4 here. So then what we're going to do is, since we don't have the y-intercept, we're actually going to try and find that using the equation y equals mx plus b. So when we do that, we're going to plug in what we know. I'm going to use 12 and 156 for my y and x. So 156 is the y, and then we have -3 over 4 times 12, because that's the x, and then plus b. So 12 divided by 4 is just going to be 3 on top. We have a -9 equals 156. And then if we go ahead and just add 9 on both sides, add 9, oh, sorry, I forgot to add the b. If we add 9 on both sides, we're going to get 165 equals b. So our b is going to be 165. Then we're just going to go ahead and plug it into a y equals. So y equals m, which is -3 over 4, x, and then plus 165. Okay, so there is the first part of this question. There's our equation. Now we need to figure out what happens when we plug in 72 for x. So let's go ahead and do that. We have -3 over 4. We're going to multiply that by 72 plus 165. We definitely pull out a calculator for this one. We do 72 divided by 4. We get 18 on the top. 18 times -3, it's going to give us a -54 plus 165. And then our y is just going to equal what that is, which is just going to be 111. So 111 is what our y will equal when x is 72. And there's the entire review section, or at least the last of it.